You can be extremely practiced in an identity that doesn't actually fit you. Depression is like wearing a shoe that is so tight. It's cutting off your circulation, your feet are bleeding, trying to enjoy a nice walk in the park, and you're like, why am I in pain? Why does this suck? Why am I numb? We have to take up enough space. When you're authentic to who you really are, that shit is joyful. That shit is fulfilling. That shit is everything. Everything. But what I want you to know is that how you feel isn't who you are. Although when you are who you are, you feel really good. You are not how you feel. And if you feel bad, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. You got to get out of that cycle of, I think this way because I feel this way, I feel this way because I think this way. And that's the reason why things feel so bleak and so depressing, is that you think that nothing's ever going to change, but the nature of life is change. Trust that. That is the way of life. That is the way of Earth. That's the way of our universe. Change, okay? So don't ever think that just because you feel this way means that you're going to feel this way forever. Hello, and welcome to my temple of radical soul work and liberation. My name is Cassandra, and today we're going to be talking about depression. So, get your tea. I got my tea here. It's very good. This is the one that I'm drinking. So get yourself, don't look at my nails. This is a tea I'm drinking. And get yourself some of this, some vitamin D, okay? When I tell you taking vitamin D consistently throughout the winter takes the edge off of depression. I know you're supposed to give those like little nuggets toward the end so people continue watching, but I just want the people to heal. I just want the people to feel better. Is that a crime? Why do I feel like such a loser for prioritizing people's needs instead of the algorithm and like making money? Why does that make me feel like a loser sometimes? Internalized supremacy. That's anyway, there are a couple new people here. I want to say hi to all of them, give them a warm welcome. I'm so happy that it resonated with so many of you. It made me feel so seen. I don't know. I'm a very small YouTuber. Like, this is a very niche little space of the internet you found just now. So yes, so welcome. I just make these videos. I don't think anyone's going to watch them. I'm just talking about myself, which I don't think goes viral, but I just like leaving a little trail that I exist. That way, if anything happens to me, there's still like a body of work on the internet that shows people that I existed. And that was another sort of place I was coming from. It's just like, I just want to put out these seeds into the internet and hope that the right people find it so that we can connect and build a community together. I want to be surrounded by people who really understand the value of Black feminism and where Black feminism meets the cultivation of self-esteem, spirituality, witchcraft. I'm surrounded by those spaces, and those are very much my influences, or my most powerful influences. Sometimes we don't have people who think like us in our immediate circle, so you kind of have to be on the internet just like shouting into the ether, just saying what you think and feel to be able to magnetize those people who really think and maybe not think the same, but have the same values, something to connect on. So I want to preface this video by saying I am speaking from a first-person, real-life account of my experience with depression. I am someone who has experienced the entire spectrum of depression symptoms, from the most mild to the most severe. And I have struggled through, learned from, and ultimately gotten to the other side of depression. And I want to share some of the insight, some of the essential insight that I found within myself as I sat down with depression for tea. We're going to talk a little bit more about that metaphor later. I want people to vicariously heal through the work that I've done on myself and my first person experience. Again, I'm not an academic. I'm not a professional. I have just gotten myself from point A to point B Not in a vacuum, I might add. I've been incredibly inspired by the work of Bell Hooks, incredibly inspired by the work of Got to Be Oshun. I am currently a member of her YouTube channel. It's so rare that we get to be in spaces where we feel centered, where our struggle is being seen, and medicine specifically for us is being curated for our healing. So highly recommend you go to her channel, watch her videos, follow her on Instagram, because she has been one of the most influential people in my journey so far. I would not be here. I would not know what I know without her. And I also want to give homage to Bell Hooks as well. It has been reading her books that has gotten me through the last few bits of my depression. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Very exciting. So yeah, we're not so different. And I really, really believe that I'm not alone. Like, I know on a deep level that I am not alone. And I know that I'm not just speaking from, what am I trying to say? I know I'm speaking to a multitude of experiences, which is why I think Black feminism is for everybody. It's going to center Black women and femmes, of course, but it's for everybody. Everybody can heal from this perspective. My struggle is your struggle is my struggle. We're in this together. And I really, really want to focus on building community, you guys. Like, I'm realizing that what we need as a people is to find others who uplift us, who keep us lifted, who keep us prayed up, who keep us conscious and healing. We need community. We cannot just be going through our day-to-day lives feeling like we are not part of some greater community. And communities are supposed to serve us as much as we serve them. When you share a bit of your story or even some insight and wisdom, other people see that. Other people get to benefit from that. You give out an energy of reciprocity, of peace and harmony. When you reach out with something positive, you get that in return. Share some insight, share some personal stories down in the comments. I just want this to be a positive space, you guys. Like, the world is so freaking scary. I just want to create a space where we can just focus on peace and harmony and working on ourselves and loving ourselves through these really, really tough times. I want you guys to get to know me as well. Like, I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a community builder. So let's get to talking about depression. I've talked enough. So I want to be very clear, okay? I don't want to give language like I have conquered depression. Number one, I don't like that kind of language. Number two, I don't think it works that way. I see depression as a house guest. All feelings are house guests. And it's our responsibility to sit down with these house guests, get to know them better, figure out why they came knocking, and ultimately give them what they need so that they leave of their own volition. We don't violently kick them out. We don't yell at them. We don't have a tantrum that because they're in our house, we don't freak out. We just sit them down for tea, patiently getting to know our guest and seeing them out when the time is right. So I don't want to say I've battled and conquered depression. I have just honestly gotten to know it very well over the years. I have been depressed since puberty. I just know depression in and out. And I also know the most precious pieces of insight and thought processes that have changed my perspective enough to peer out of the veil of depression. Okay. So the first most important thing to know about depression is that it is rooted in your core beliefs. So the very last stronghold for my depression was internalized racism. I did not realize just how much my perception of myself through the eyes of imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. That is a term from Bell Hooks. I do want to give her credit for that. She is the one who popularized it. I'm not sure if she created it or not. I didn't realize how this person that I thought I was created from a series of experiences that made me feel less than, that made me feel beneath, that made me feel like I will never, ever be good enough. And it was really connecting that perspective of myself with the environment of white spaces. I am a Black person who grew up in mostly white spaces, mostly around white people. And there was some assimilation to it. There was some absolute hopelessness on ever being able to do that. When I realized that the standard I was trying to hold myself to was in part modeled after my oppressor, I realized just how lost I really was. And I, again, was considering myself to be a pretty self-aware person. Like, I knew I had internalized racism. I did not know how deep it actually ran. This core belief that I was less than, that I could never be good enough, I could never be beautiful enough, I could never fit the standard, was like this blackhead in my soul that I had to push out and realize was there. And now that I pushed out all of this gunk from my soul, thinking that I needed to be the standard that is modeled after my oppressor, I was much more able to be a conduit from my authenticity, from my soul, from a greater power, because I'm letting myself take up more space. I'm like, oh, here I am. I don't have to model myself after that. You might not have been able to hear me. I don't need to model myself after that. I don't need to see myself as below that person. I look at success and money and I'm like, okay, that's nice, but much more than that, I want this fulfillment. Please hold for New York. I'm not even sure you can hear that, actually. The next realization that I've had. Okay, hear me out. Repression of your feelings. Okay, this is a big one, especially for Black folks, Black and BIPOC folks. I'll just use myself as an example. There was this belief of mine that if I do not show up to spaces completely poised, completely in control, this sense of like just being silly or just being yourself and giving yourself space to mess up, make mistakes, being really hard on yourself when you do make a mistake, it's all in this vein of I must repress and suppress all of those feelings that if somebody sees them, I am in danger. I'm worried people are going to think I'm stupid. I have so much wounding around my intelligence because when I was in elementary school, they would separate the class based on the standardized testing scores. And all of the students who didn't score very well, who all happened to be Black and brown, myself included, would go with the teacher, would be taken out of the class and to be taken into the hallway to do worksheets with a teacher. And those worksheets would have nothing to do with what we're learning in the classroom. Meanwhile, all the students who are at the top of the class in terms of the standardized testing, they would be taken out of the group, and all those students happen to be white. And so from this dynamic, I internalized in elementary school that I am not smart. Knowing other people were looking down on me and thinking that I'm inferior because I am associated with this group. My advice to you would be try to figure out what feelings you are not allowing yourself to feel. What feelings are you the most ashamed of? What feelings are you most afraid of? And have that feeling down for tea and just get to know it in a very calm, relaxing context over a cup of tea and biscuits. You know, time alone can heal so much. Okay, next. So, another key insight, depression and wanting to unalive is at its core a narrative that's simply a bleak conclusion. It is, I feel this way, I don't like the way I feel, but attached to that is, and I will never, ever feel any different. It is this conclusion that life is just this way and it's never going to change. Being on the other side of knowing how real that can feel, it's really difficult to explain because when I was in it, there was nothing that could convince me otherwise. I just want you to believe me when I say that that conclusion is bullshit. It is absolute bullshit. When that bleak conclusion leads to thoughts of unaliving, and I want to speak on this as well because I also know what that's like, and I want to speak to that experience. As someone who has literally experienced these thoughts and has literally attempted, I can tell you, I can promise you, if you stay, and I mentioned this in a reel on my Instagram, but I promise you, if you stay, there will come a day when you are crying on your knees in gratitude to yourself, to a greater power that you did not leave. You're going to be so grateful that you stayed because things change, perspectives change, core beliefs change. I'm an example. I am not, sorry. Boyfriend texted me. He wants sushi. I'm living proof. And we are not so fucking different. Okay? You are special. Of course you're special, but you're not so special that you are beyond help. All right. I feel like anxiety gets talked about way more because the symptoms of anxiety are so much more validated than the depression ones. Like, anxiety is associated with top performers, overachievers, getting work done, making money. Like, anxiety definitely makes people do work. That is validated by society. Whereas sleeping too much, overeating, laying on the couch, not being able to get out of bed, that can be a source of shame for a lot of people in a society where labor and working hard is the name of the game. Even today, when I'm experiencing shame, it is very hard for me to express myself, to talk about how I feel, to think clearly. To have that experience in school where I was so ashamed made me perform less well, and it became this cycle. So when you're shame spiraling, or what was it, fixating on past failures or self-blame, or any of the times you felt lots of shame, you cannot function properly. You cannot function. And I just want to take the sting out of that. I've heard someone, I don't remember who it was, maybe I'll link it down below or mention it in the description box, but somebody called being depressed as being in need of deep rest. I think it might have been Jim Carrey, actually. I gotta check it out. They called it deep rest. Your need to rest from this identity of being someone who can't live a good life, who can't experience joy or happiness or fulfillment. You need rest from those narratives. Like I said in my last video, what was it called? Validation doesn't fucking work. Even when you do seek that validation and you check off all of those boxes, you're still not free. You still don't feel good. So the only other option is to find out who you really are. Get to know what your soul really is. And that's really hard when you think your personality is your depression. That's really hard when you think that the way you feel is your identity. And it's this cycle of, I feel this way, so I think this way. I think this way, so I feel this way. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And that becomes life. And you feel like you'll never get out of it, but it's actually changing the standards you have for yourself, changing the lens from which you see yourself, educating yourself, becoming more conscious of your environment and how your environment is propagating, promoting these ideas that you are a failure, that you have so much to be ashamed of, that you're not good enough. You have to really put the lens on your environment. And that leads me to my next piece of insight, which is depression is a normal reaction to a sick, harsh, political, emotional environment. Your depression is a normal reaction to a very harsh environment. What do? We shut down. After we've absorbed all the toxicity from our environment in terms of the kind of narratives that surround us about who we are, how we're, all the multitude of ways of how we're not good enough, how that informs our buying choices, how that informs the people we hang out with, the people we decide to be in relationships with, how we can create an entire life based on an identity that doesn't actually fit who we are. So that is why it's so important to study your environment, especially if you are a Black woman. You need to study Black feminism because you're going to understand why you feel the way you feel, given the historical context that you're in. If you're in America, you're in the belly of the beast. And I was so grateful to hear Iya talk about, Got to be Oshun, talk about how in this society, the most civilized person is the white man. And what is the farthest thing you can get from a white man? A Black woman. We have the peak of civilization being everything that the white man created, Europe, America, even though America was a whole system of indigenous people before they came. The height of civilization is the domination of nature. So on the other side of the spectrum, we have nature. I'll link the video that she talks about that in down below. America would not be this rich without Black women, without the wombs of Black women. America would not have its wealth without slavery. That is the reason why America is America. It's because it began with slavery. If you feel like life has just been feeling a type of way and you feel like it's not going to get better, trust me, it will. Trust me, it will. Our ancestors have gone through much worse. And if they can survive, you can survive. And we have to get all of our resources, all of our tools together to help us survive and thrive in these times. We are resilient. We are a resilient people. And we're going to get through this like we always do. Okay? Like we always do. All right. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, don't forget to comment and leave helpful insight for other people so that other people can also heal and have a good day. Okay, bye.